Well, firstly, it was a breakdown, total breakdown of community. Everything that community-based was destroyed. Your schools, your churches, your sports clubs, your friends, your families, they were all totally destroyed. Because when people were being taken out of their respective areas, they weren't taken out as a community.
Some of the lasting effects I see from the apartheid era, I think the more visible ones is still the segregation in terms of living spaces. I think that's one that's still quite apparent to me.
Where we're based now, or where we are now, it's actually a mixed community, which is blacks and colored. But you find is within the community segregated as well. You find further down the road, it's all mainly blacks, and then up the road is mainly colored people.
Apartheid was more about economic exclusion of the black majority of South Africa, Now, the most lasting effect is that black people still don't find expression, like economically.
Our economy is still skewed, the distribution of the economy is still skewed along racial lines. Structural racism is what characterizes most of the institutions within South African society, from economic institutions like industries, in the private sector. Your academic institution, especially for us young people, those institutions are still exclusionary in their very nature. You get financial exclusion, you get academic exclusion based on the color of your skin.
If you look at a private school and a public school, there's a huge difference. Obviously, now, if you actually go somewhere for a job, they look at you have a private school, your English is much better. Even your grades are much better. So the kid in the township doesn't stand a chance.
Half of the kids coming to class are coming on an empty stomach. So you cannot teach a child on an empty stomach. And some of those kids are on drugs also. So it must really be a labor of love for some of those teachers who are teaching in those areas. And I take my hat off to them because I've seen the results of what it can be and how destructive it can be for teachers, even to get there and go to school the next day to see how we can take this up and how we can try and save some of the kids in those areas.
If you're white, you've got a lot of opportunities. If you're black, you'd hardly survive, not unless you are dining and dancing with the white people. So white supremacy and white privilege is one of the things that are prevalent into our communities.
There's these two divides where there might be a big area of white people that think racism is wrong and they're totally against it and they want to include everything, and then there's this other aspect where racism is still rife in the back of people's minds.
Because of the intense brainwashing that was done from grandparents to parents and then to children, you find that people still look at each other differently and proclaim that this is their area and that is your area. Nobody's born with racism, nobody's born with hating another religion. You're indoctrinated. And until we cut off the heads of indoctrination, we're going to be saddled with that sort of situation.
You can't have a normal conversation without having racism involved with that conversation, and it's something that it's like a sickness that you cannot run away from in a way. Even if ever you look around within the challenges that are faced by young people, they'll always refer in terms of what the whites did to us, hence we are the people that we are today.
Not long ago, in this very institution of ours, I experienced racism in one of the restaurants. This is the very same university that we're sitting in. Where in this restaurant, I was in a table, so I just wanted a sauce. When I go to a store to ask these white guys, my counterparts, and ask them to borrow me a sauce, they refused to give it to me. And when I pursued it and asked why, and they just told me, look, we don't share with you. You are black, we are white, we don't share with you. And I refused to allow a situation where I retaliate because I knew it was going to break up into violence. So I decided to let me turn a blind eye here.
You take 500,000 people from no matter which part of the world you come. I place you all in an open field and I ask you to prick your finger, and what color is going to come out? Now, until we bleed in different colors, we come from one race, and that's the human race. So color of skin, texture of hair, bridge of nose, the way you are built means absolutely nothing. Within each and every persuasion, we either have good or we have bad. And we should tap into the good sides of people. We should, in a reasonable manner, be able to be tolerant of each other and live in a measure of harmony. Well, that, of course, is easier said than done.
If I quote my statistics very well, we're sitting at something like 23% of unemployment, which is very problematic for young people. And you've got a lot of young people, educated and uneducated, sitting in the streets. So it brings a lot of fear and anxiety for us who are within the education system currently, because we know that as soon as we exit, this system will still remain into a position of poverty. Hence, you'll see now that there are high rates of crime happening in the country. It's not that people are evil by their very nature, it's the circumstances which forces them in such positions.
You know, you always that phrase, government could do more, but I think sometimes maybe the problem here is that people rely too much on government to kind of check that off for them all the time, and they're not actually engaged in their own communities to get their own projects off the ground and kind of cater for their own needs.
There's only one way which would make us equal with white people. It's when the economy is distributed equally among all who live in the country, and that is the only way. From where I'm standing, I see no reason for a black man to be deemed as racist, because racism, it starts by only seeing yourself as inferior to your counterpart, and you become inferior clearly when you don't have the economic means to see yourself as equal. I cannot see myself as equal to a white man. When a white man has got thousands in his banks, I only have got cents in mine. If nothing is done about this democracy of ours, which is not working very well, we are most likely going to go back into a position of civil war into our country. What we experienced during apartheid might happen, because now we've got this large pool of young people who are coming into the system, who are poor, who are angry and ready for action. So if nothing is done, if job opportunities are not given to these people, they're most likely going to revolt in violence.